before the pandemic, there was a study that came out that said 45% of people are having difficulty sleeping. So that's nearly half of us walking around, not living our full potential and being tired all the time and irritable and moody. So this covers off everything from their sleep environment to what's happening in their world and their life. And some people say to me, but what do I do after that?
If you want to be successful, you need to be a good sleeper, because being a bad sleeper can cause stress, anxiety, depression, and other deadly illnesses. This, of course, will affect your ability to be successful in life. However, most people struggle to sleep because they are doing all the wrong things. Hi, it's Linh Podetti, and in today's episode, you will learn from my guest, Natalie McCann, one of Australia's leading executive stress and sleep coaches, who will explain to you why you can't sleep and what are the right things to do to help you sleep easier. She transformed her own sleep after decades of chronic insomnia and now is helping people around the world to transform their lives through the power of sleep. Hi Nat, so good to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Lynn. I appreciate it.
No worries at all. And you know what? Recently, I've just been hearing a lot of people that I know that are having sleep problems. So you come so handy as the sleep coach. So let's talk a little bit about how you got into doing sleep coaching. Did you struggle with sleep and then hence you got into coaching, or what was it that got you into this profession?
Absolutely, Lynn. So my previous career, I was in the corporate world as an IT project manager, and I did that for about 15 years. But even before that, even as a child, I really struggled to sleep, and I was a very anxious child, even though I came from a super loving, secure, safe environment. I was just quite anxious and quite fearful as a child, and that never really improved. So I got into some really bad habits of staying awake at night. All through my teenage years, it was exactly the same. And then when I got into uni, I really struggled, and I was powering through university on, I don't know if you remember those horrible caffeine pills called No-Dose.
No, I haven't heard of it. Sounds hectic.
They were horrible, yeah, because I didn't drink coffee. So I'd be typing my assignments all, agitated, and just really my nervous system was just on overdrive, and I could never really properly relax. But the problem is that I never really understood that my body was stressed. I didn't feel like I was stressed about anything. I found university not that difficult. I had a great social life. But now looking back, I really realize and understand the impact that stress was having on my body. So when I finished university, started working, my first stressful job, that's when I started down the prescription sleeping pill route. And I never really found that magic pill that everyone is searching for. So I tried all of them. And this started at about the age of 20. So all through my professional career, I was, on and off them, looking for that perfect magic pill. Then I had tried every remedy available, chiropractic, naturopathy, all of those things, acupuncture, massage. And really all of those external remedies never really had a long-term impact. So it wasn't until later on that I had my two beautiful boys, and we were renovating our house, and my stress was just through the roof, and I was just really tired of running on empty. So I really decided to get to the bottom of it, and I began to read, and not just about sleep, but also about personal development. And that's when things really started to turn around for me. And I really came to the understanding it wasn't necessarily things that I was doing that were right or wrong. It was a little bit more deeper than that. And it was around, I had to look inwards, take responsibility for everything in my life and take responsibility for everything that was not in my life. And that was really powerful, sort of taking that step. And as time went on, I really managed to turn my sleep around. And now I've changed my career. I stepped away from the corporate world. I began doing health and nutrition coaching is how I started. And now I've moved more into the sleep and stress world. And it's very fulfilling for me. And it's like my personal and professional lives have really come together.
Yeah, well, that was such a beautiful story and inspiring, because if you could help yourself and change, and you know what it's like to be that person that couldn't sleep, and you're being able to really change. So that's really exciting for people that are struggling with sleep. A lot of the people are coming to you. What's the impact on not being able to sleep? And how long have they let this problem happen? Because I think sometimes we think sleep is just something you're born with and you kind of think you just have to know what to do. You don't really know that you should get yourself help with it because it's such an important thing. But yeah, in short, like what are the impact that you've seen some of your clients that are coming to you are facing because of lack of sleep?
Oh, look, the impacts are endless, really. And I thought I'd just throw in there that back before the pandemic, there was a study that came out that said 45% of people are having difficulty sleeping. So that's nearly half of us walking around, not living our full potential and being tired all the time and irritable and moody. The other thing that happens immediately the next day is that you'll find a change in your appetite. So it has straight away, it has an impact on your feeling full hormone. It's called ghrelin. And so you're reaching for instant energy fixes. And it's nothing to do with your willpower. It's actually a hormonal change. So those are the things in the short term: lack of concentration, clarity, focus, also increased risks of accidents and injuries. You're going to the gym, your recovery will be slower, but you're also at a higher risk of accident and injury. So, but in the long term, that translates to very chronic, quite chronic illnesses. So obesity and diabetes, that's quite a strong link. Then, of course, if you've got diabetes and obesity, you're at higher risk of all of the other chronic diseases as well. So the list kind of goes on, but we want to really focus on what we can do, not what, the negative things that can happen in the long term. We don't want to increase that anxiety for people. But the good news is, like you said, we can turn this around. It can take a lot of work, but thankfully now I've condensed it all, and I don't want people to take this view that it takes years and years. We can really fast track that now.
Yeah, and talking about remedy, I think a lot of people are trying to find quick fixes. Unlike what you've realized is that you really have to go deeper. So like, for example, my husband, he would be the type that has to have his phone next to him, even though I told him, leave it outside. And he won't sleep at the right time, but he says, I have to wait till I'm really tired. So he'll force himself to look at his phone as his hygiene, like his routine to go to sleep. Like, I'm going to wait till I'm super tired and worn myself out, and then I'm going to sleep. And I feel like this is why he always complains he's a bit tired, even though I'm going, must be the way you sleep. But can you kind of highlight a little bit of some of the typical things people try to do that is actually not effective, but they think it's effective?
Yeah, well, I think, you've just said it there in one go. So people are really using their tech and their screens to help wind down these days. But if you look at the science of sleep, then it's really interrupting that natural hormone that is required, which is the darkness signaling hormone, which is called melatonin. So a lot of people have heard of melatonin. They think it's like a sedative if you're taking it in a synthetic form, but it's actually a darkness signaling hormone. So what that means is that when you're interfering with that by using your screens, because we know that those screens emit this blue light, that's actually delaying the production of melatonin. So it is quite important, and a lot of people are tired of hearing this message, but it's because it's actually quite important, and it's quite underutilized as well. So people hear it, but they're not doing it. But it can be a really effective way. Try and pop your screens down by about 9 o'clock. I always put mine on do not disturb because I want to be in control of my phone. I don't want my phone controlling me. So I often have that during the day, with client meetings and so on, but I don't want to be controlled by my phone. Every time there's a ping, it does send a little bit of stress to your body. So you think there's an emergency, you need to go and check it. You need to get used to turning that off and you being in control of checking it, not the other way around.
Yeah, because I find that if I'm putting more information in my head the minute before I sleep, it's like I'm creating tension in my mind, and my mind is, running, thinking about things, hence it affects sleep, right? So I guess, can you highlight some of the tips for us to ensure that we can have a good night's sleep?
So there's some really easy things that we can do. So putting our phones down by about 9 o'clock. And some people say to me, but what do I do after that? And so it's funny, we've become so used to it. And, we're just a product of what is around us. So it's no fault of our own, but it is our responsibility to take the best care of ourselves and get the best night's sleep. So popping your phone away at 9 o'clock would be a great start. Reading a book instead, playing a game with the family. We certainly did that a lot last year in lockdown. you know, having conversations with your flatmate, your partner, or your children. You could get out a game or puzzle, like I said. But, you know, there's plenty of other things to be doing. And so what I like to say to people is, in that sort of wind down time, try and do similar things each night. It might include a shower at night or a bath if you've got time. It might be journaling, which I find personally very effective because I've got a super active mind. So I don't want my brain to be forced to remember anything. And even if you think it's not very important, you know, so for example, I can go to bed and one tiny thought about I've got to email my kids' teacher in the morning is enough to trigger, you know, a chain of events. It's not important, it's not life or death, but just get it out on the paper and then you're not forced to remember anything. So journaling is a great one. Practicing meditation, and I say that if you've got chronic insomnia, that's going to be really difficult. And I always like to say that because people say to me, I can't meditate. And I'm like, of course you can't meditate yet. Your brain is too active and it's not trained enough. But if you can just start with a couple of minutes a day and be really kind to yourself and just say to yourself, I'm training my brain to switch off, and that is all it is. But the more you do that and the more you practice, the more effective you're going to be able to switch off at night.
Yeah.
What else? You can use essential oils. That's always a great one. But really be mindful of your diet as well. So how much caffeine you're consuming, but also sugar as well, like cutting out that late night snack. We want the energy in our body to be going to repairing our bones, muscles, and tissues, and also in our brain to consolidate learning and memory. We don't want it working on digestion overnight. That's why I say have an early and light dinner and then no snacking until the morning. And that's, you know, where breakfast originally came from was break the fast.
Yeah, that's amazing. And the other thing you did mention early on was when you got into personal development. I can't help to think that if you have negative mindset or you think you can't control things and you're stressing out about things because you actually you haven't learnt about how life works, you know. I remember 10 years ago, I actually thought everyone sees the world the same as me, and I didn't even realize that we have subconscious and conscious. That was such a new thing for me. And since I was able to control my life better, my life got better. And I think a lot, you know, when my aunties say they can't sleep and all, but I know that she's a type that is quite negative or because she's never aware of this thing. So how important is it to kind of get into personal development and working on your mind?
I think it is everything. And I really attribute that because I had tried every external remedy available, Lynn. So at some point you've got to go, this is a natural process. My body used to be able to do this when I was a baby. At what point have I learnt these behaviors? So there is natural processes that happen in the body, but there's also behavioral conditioning, which is the third piece of the puzzle there. And at some point I have let my anxieties take over and I've learnt these bad behaviors. So I can take those back. But the first step is A, being aware of it, and B, taking responsibility for it. Not living with it forever and ever and complaining every day actually doesn't help anybody. Personal development is super important. Your mindset is everything. And also your boundaries. I talk a lot about this with my one-on-one clients. You know, your work boundaries, but also in your personal life. So I was a people pleaser down to textbook. You know, I couldn't say no to anybody, even at work or family or my friends, anything. So that has become something that I have learnt so much about and has made a huge, huge difference for me. Switching off, you know, being unavailable is actually okay. We owe it to ourselves, you know, every night because we've worked all day. We've been available to everyone all day. So give yourself a couple of hours in the evening to be unavailable.
It sounds like, you know, as a sleep coach, you have to be very holistic in looking at someone's life and going, okay, you know, where are your bad habits and then what are the plans forward? Can you give me a quick guide on, let's just say a client comes in and wants to work with you. What do you normally need to do to take them from, you know, where they're at to where they need to be?
Well, you're absolutely right, Lynn. So it is a really holistic perspective. My whole philosophy is even if you have the cleanest diet in the world and you're exercising a lot, if you've got stress anywhere else in your life, then that's going to manifest somehow. And for me, that was sleep. And for a lot of people, that's sleep. So you might be very stressed about your finances or your relationship, or at the moment, people are very stressed about health or the lack of a social life, for example. So when I work with people, I get them to do a fair bit of work before we even meet. So we will do a personalized sleep audit. And so this covers off everything from their sleep environment to what's happening in their world and their life. So when I meet with them, I've already got a snapshot picture. So we will go through their beliefs around sleep. Are they safe? And, that is a big one. And that's actually one of the main ones. And I'm finding a lot of people sort of saying, yes, they feel safe, but they're sleeping with one eye open, one eye closed almost, because they feel this responsibility to look after their family. It's really interesting. And so we deep dive into their beliefs. We do that sleep audit. We talk about their timetable. What time are they going to bed? What time are they getting up? And we find a lot of the time, because they're so tired, they spend a lot more time in bed than they need to. It's actually working the other way around. So we do a lot of work around that, but it's very different for everyone. So it's very personalized. The plan that I did for my last client will be very different to the plan for my next client. So it's not a one size fits all.
What would be the time it takes to implement and kind of start to see results? Like let's say someone is just struggling to sleep and they're having 2 or 3 hours of sleep today. And by working with you, what's the time frame have you seen in terms of being able to progress to sleeping better?
Yeah, so the best, most effective program I have is when we meet every fortnight. One change, and you do that for 2 weeks. Then you come back and we talk about what's happening, and it's unlimited support as well. So they can email me every day. I want people to feel supported in this, because I wanted to create something that I didn't have that I would have found very beneficial. So we do that. So I meet with people over a 12-week period, and most of the time it happens in a lot less time than that, if they're willing to make those changes, which most people are. By the time they come to me, they really are, and they're ready, and they're pretty much ready to do anything. So they would generally see a change in a month. But over that 3 months time, we can really transform.
Yeah. Let me say, sleep is so important, because I'm actually a fortunate person where I can sleep very easily. I close my eyes and I'm like gone to sleep. But it's only very rare when I'm going through some sort of stress or an event that I can't sleep. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. And I don't know how people do that every day, in and out, and can't sleep. And I'm like, I feel sorry for them. And it's something that I know that because I have good sleep all the time, I'm very creative or productive. And, people go, you're always so happy and energetic. I sleep really well. And so I get, if anyone's watching this, it's like sleep is so important, and get expert help with this, because on the outside you want to get fit, so you hire a PT, but
that's right.
Get to take care of your sleep, which you spend 8 hours a day sleeping, minimum, around there. Any last takeaway you want to let the audience know before we end the show?
Just sort of finishing on your point there is that don't take it for granted, that for you sleep really well, but that does not come easily for a lot of people. But what I really want to say is that the people don't have to live with this forever. Don't accept it as a normal. This is what I did for 30 years, Lynn, and I wasted so much of my life being tired, and I don't want that for anyone else. I want to fast track it for them. And yes, there's some medical issues that sometimes, we need to refer on, but 9 times out of 10, we can sort this out. And it doesn't take, sleep labs and medication and all this stuff, but it does take a change of perspective and an acceptance to change.
Yeah, 100%. So how can people connect with you, Nat?
So I'm always on LinkedIn. So please connect with me on LinkedIn. That's the best place to find me. My website is seedlinghealth.com.au. So you can also contact me via there, but I'd love to chat to you and help out wherever I can.
Thank you so much, Nat, for your time. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Lynn. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'd love to know in the comments below, how many hours do you sleep currently? Now, if you'd like to know more about my sleeping habits and how I managed to even wake up at 3 a.m, then check out this video here.